Right now on Morning News Now, the Middle East back on edge this morning thanks to a fresh wave of attacks coming from both Iran and the United States overnight. Meanwhile, President Trump back on home turf, touching down in Washington after a whirlwind NATO trip that was capped off by the commander-in-chief telling reporters that the ceasefire deal is over. So where do the two feuding sides go from here? And is America at risk of teetering into all-out war? We've also got an eye on how it's impacting wallets here at home, including how Wall Street is weathering all this uncertainty. Plus, a Senate race stunner out of Maine this morning, embattled Democratic candidate Graham Platner suspending his controversial campaign overnight amid deafening calls, some from within his own party, to bow out of the race. That is all in the wake of a pretty damning sexual assault accusation against him, which he denies. Now, a different kind of race is on to find Democrats' best hope of defeating incumbent Republican Susan Collins. More on that in a moment. And squish, squish, boom. What parents need to know this morning about a viral trend online that could have explosive consequences if their kids are not careful. Really something parents should be keeping an eye on because quite a few of those videos online.
So many of those products in my home. I'm ready for this trend to end. They're so popular. They had to ban them from the schools. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Vicki Wynn in for Joe today.
And I'm Susan Soch. We're so happy that you're here and you all are starting the day with us. Thanks for being here. We're going to begin our show with some breaking news out of the Middle East. A new exchange of attacks between Iran and the United States is putting the region back on edge. That's after President Trump, now back in Washington, told reporters at the NATO summit in Turkey that the ceasefire between both countries is over.
Overnight, U.S. Central Command said it carried out dozens of strikes hitting multiple cities on Iran's southern coast. CENTCOM says the strikes are to, quote, degrade their ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this eyewitness footage, verified by NBC News, shows explosions in one of those Iranian coastal cities. Iran's health ministry says at least 14 people were killed. Dozens more were injured in those attacks. In response, Tehran said it launched attacks on U.S. bases in the Gulf. Now, hopes for any kind of peace deal are in major doubt after President Trump told a news conference at the NATO summit, quote, let's just finish the job. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with the very latest. Good morning, Alice.
Good morning, Vicki and Savannah. President Trump is insisting that Iran still wants to make a deal for long-term peace, even as the two sides fired at each other for a second night in a row. The president is also ramping up his rhetoric, saying he doesn't know if he can trust that Iran will stick to an agreement.
Not enough, right?
President Trump is back in Washington from the NATO summit in Turkey. Flying at the same time, the U.S. military launched a new round of strikes against Iran, hitting roughly 90 military targets, according to U.S. Central Command.
We just hit them very hard, and I say we hit them 20-1 every time they hit us.
Iran says it fired back against 4 U.S. bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. The Pentagon has not confirmed that or any damage. The second night in a row of strikes exchanged comes after President Trump declared Wednesday the ceasefire with Iran is over.
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore, with this scum.
The flare-up started when Iran struck 3 commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week, despite promising to allow traffic to flow as part of the preliminary peace deal. That deal is now in question.
They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal.
Oil prices are surging as President Trump threatened to reimpose the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ships, while Iran's lead negotiator said the Strait of Hormuz will only be open under Iranian management. The president, though, said he does not expect a return to full-scale war.
I don't think it's going to start again. I think it's going to go very quickly.
That as he shifted course on another war while at the NATO summit, granting the president of Ukraine's request for a license to build its own Patriot missile defense systems to ward off increasing Russian attacks. Another note here, President Trump left Turkey on the old Air Force One before changing to the new one that was gifted by Qatar at a stop in England. The president said that the swap had nothing to do with security, but a source familiar with the president's plans told NBC News it was a security move out of an abundance of caution as they were taking off from Turkey, a country that borders Iran. Savannah and Vicki.
All right, Alice, we appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have more on the security concerns that this last-minute swap out of the planes?
Yeah, so the White House communications director said the new Air Force One is state-of-the-art, fitted with high-level security protocols. And he said, quote, "We use every tool at our disposal, including distraction and misdirection, to address threats." A senior White House official said they can't speak to any specific threats, but President Trump himself said yesterday that the life of being a president is dangerous and that he is #1 on Iran's kill list. Guys.
Yeah, those security concerns, very important. All right, Alice, thank you so much.
Let's bring in NBC News military analyst Colonel Steve Warren. Colonel, good morning. Thanks as always. Help us understand the scale and scope of this latest U.S. attack on Iran. What was targeted and how big of an escalation is this?
Yeah, very important question, Savannah. Thanks for having me. This so far, what I'm calling the Battle of the Straits, the Battle of the Strait of Hormuz, is not yet full-scale war. Central Command, which is in charge of these operations, has said yesterday they struck about 90 targets, the day before about 80 targets, and this is significantly less than the several hundred targets CENTCOM was striking at the beginning of this operation. Additionally, the strikes have been focused really on things that Iran owns that can influence the Strait. So areas near the shoreline, drone sites, missile sites, radar sites, etc. So this really is a battle for the Strait of Hormuz, and so far it's stayed contained that way. We'll have to see if that remains.
Colonel, Iran is saying that it responded. It targeted U.S. bases in the Gulf. How strong are Iran's military capabilities right now, given that the Pentagon says they were very much degraded earlier in this war, weeks ago? Has Iran been able to cause much damage to these bases with the artillery they have left?
Yeah, certainly they have expanded. The Iranians have expanded their responses. Earlier, it was only Kuwait. Now we've got other nations allied to the United States involved in receiving these responses. You know, the Iranians have had several weeks now to rebuild some of their capabilities. We've seen various reports on the capabilities of their ballistic missiles. Some estimates are that 80% of their missiles have been destroyed. Others are that only about 30% of those missiles have been destroyed. So we're not certain how much capability the Iranians still have under their control, but we do know two things. Number one, they've had time to resupply and rebuild. And number two, clearly, they still have some capability left because they're using it right now.
Let's talk about where things might go from here. Could we return to a state of full-blown war, do you think? And does the U.S. have the capacity to do that?
Well, the United States certainly has the capacity to do it. Now, we haven't seen the large surge of capabilities of additional ships, additional aircraft, additional bombers move into the region yet that we saw back in February before this whole thing kicked off. So we don't have quite the amount of combat power in the region today that we had back in February and March. That said, the United States certainly has that capability other places in the world and can begin moving it into the Middle East really at any time. In addition, the capabilities that we do have in the Middle East, Savannah, they're significant. So we can continue to press the Iranians, we continue to pressure the Iranians, and we can continue to do damage to the Iranians even with what we still have left in the area.
Colonel, despite this escalation, we've been hearing the president talk about how negotiations could still happen. How do you get to the negotiating table with this backdrop?
Yeah, so it's tough. I think in this case, history might be an important lesson. You know, if you look back to the Vietnam War, the Korean War, even as far back as World War II, you do see that negotiations and combat can and historically have happened at the same time. Now, in this case, you know, the Iranians have been very difficult to deal with, and I think it's important to remember that up until now, every single violation of this ceasefire that has now, frankly, unraveled, every violation was initiated by the Iranians. They are difficult negotiating, partners, if you will. They don't keep their word, so they are very difficult to negotiate with. Now, having said all that, there is historical precedent for nations to fight and talk at the same time, and that's, of course, what we're all looking for now.
All right. Colonel Warren, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, these renewed fears of an escalating war in Iran, they're now leading to higher oil prices and sinking stocks. This morning, gas prices are once again on the rise after the international benchmark for crude oil jumped to $78 at the end of yesterday's close. That is about a 5% jump and its highest point in 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, there was a sharp reaction on Wall Street with the S&P 500 and Dow Industrial Average both taking a dive at close.
For more on this, we are joined by editor-in-chief of Investopedia and the chief business editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver. Caleb, good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us. So let's start with these oil prices now hitting this high price. I mean, it's not $100 like we saw at the beginning of the war, but that's the biggest single-day spike we have seen since June, right? So how concerned should Americans be about the prices that we're going to pay at the pump?
Yeah, well, there's a direct correlation there between higher oil prices and the uncertainty in the Gulf and Iran and the stock market, because it means slower growth. If we're going to have higher oil prices and higher gas prices, that means slower spending by businesses, slower spending by consumers who already feel terrible about the economy. And that translates into a big hit for the stock market. Things bouncing back a little today, but there's this unpredictability. And I think that's what gets into investors and consumers' heads. They don't know what prices are going to be. So they stop spending. They put their hands in their pockets. And that's what we saw yesterday. We'll see if that continues.
So we're seeing stocks pull back while these oil prices move higher. What does that tell us about the market and what investors are most worried about?
They're worried about the unpredictability. Again, how much is gas going to cost? And because of that, they're seizing their spending on things like travel, discretionary spending. That's where you see it first. But we're already hearing results from companies who are just starting to report last quarter results saying consumers are pulling back. We heard it from Pepsi this morning. We're going to hear it from other companies. Airlines are going to start reporting this Friday. That's what they're worried about. What does this translate to at the end of the day?
Yeah, speaking of the airlines, we see these stocks taking a hit. Industries like travel, consumer-related goods are going down. Also, consumer spending retracting. Does it say anything about the broader economy at this moment? And this is supposed to be a very busy season for travel.
Yeah, this is the travel season. We have World Cup happening throughout the country here. We have people that are traveling from city to city to see that. Lots of concerts going on. We have actually seen, and we saw it in the jobs report, a slowdown in hiring in leisure and hospitality. You wouldn't expect that on a summer like the one we're having right now, but we're starting to see that more and more. And if that continues, that'll eventually lead into lower stock prices, lower growth for the economy overall, which could affect the jobs market.
If these tensions overseas continue to escalate, what is it that Americans should really be keeping an eye on and maybe be most concerned about when it comes to their money?
Yeah, it's going to be slower growth. And slower growth means less hiring. Slower growth means less spending. All of that translates into a lower stock market, but potentially stagflation, which is something we don't want to see. But I'm looking out at oil prices towards the end of this year because they always trade in the future. Traders think oil prices are going to continue to go down. So if you're looking at the October or December contracts, $72 a barrel. That doesn't mean gas prices are going to go to where they were last year, $3.15. That means they're going to be slightly lower if things calm down. But that's a big if. There's so much unpredictability here, and things seem to change by an hourly basis. Hard for investors and consumers to make plans with that happening.
All right, Caleb Silver, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
President Trump is filing another appeal after a federal judge ruled that E. Jean Carroll should be paid the more than $5 million awarded to her 3 years ago.
Yesterday, U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan ordered that Carroll should immediately receive the money after the Supreme Court refused to hear the president's last appeal. The judgment was initially awarded in 2023 when a jury found President Trump sexually abused Carroll back in 1996 and then later defamed her when he denied the allegations.
For more on this, we want to bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas. Danny, good morning. Good to see you. So do we know when this money is supposed to be paid out? And why did the judge order that it also be paid with interest at this point? That actually adds an additional $800,000 to the original $5 million.
That's right. First, when the order says essentially pay it, and that really means forthwith. In a regular run-of-the-mill case, that might mean whenever the clerk gets around to it. In a case of this kind of import, it will probably happen relatively quickly. An order from a federal judge is something that you generally pay attention to and promptly. Now, as to the interest, that's provided for by law in federal court, and it's designed to protect people from someone saying, hey, I want to appeal, but hey, at the end of the appeal, I've spent all my money. So that interest runs from the time of judgment. It's standard and provided by law. In the case of an amount like this much, after 5 years, it's a considerable amount.
Danny, the president's legal team filed another appeal just minutes after this judge's order. So is there a real shot of blocking the payment, or is it a stall tactic?
For the most part, it is trying absolutely everything you can. After all, the Trump team's argument is that they agreed years ago that this money would be paid if the Supreme Court denied what's called cert, denied hearing the case. And so the Supreme Court has done that. But the Trump team's arguing, well, yeah, we've asked them to rehear it. So technically, they might go back on what they already dismissed and declined to hear. It's a near zero probability. But as they say in the movies, so you're saying there's a chance. And that's what the Trump team is saying. So very small chance. Their best argument is that, hey, Judge, there's really no harm. Carol says she's going to give this money away. If we give it to her now, it'll disappear into the wind. So just hold on to it for a couple more months. Nobody will be harmed.
Well, speaking of is there a chance, President Trump is also appealing a separate $83 million defamation judgment that was granted to Carol by a different Manhattan jury back in 2024. That payment also being held up at this point?
Yes, it's technically a stage behind in the appeals process. But you can expect that the Trump team will take this, if they can, to the Supreme Court. And if the court denies it, then they'll be stuck at the lower appellate court. So the reason this is so significant is that second case really raises the issue of the presidential immunity. In other words, Trump is arguing that when they use statements, the plaintiff used his statements made as a president, that went against the Supreme Court's ruling that something a president says in his official capacity, it can't even be used as evidence. So that is a major issue in that appeal, and it could affect this earlier case for the $5 million. But obviously, the $83 million case is significantly more and of greater dollar import.
All right, Danny Savalas, we appreciate your insight, as always.
We have big news, out of Maine this morning with Graham Platner, the embattled Democratic Senate nominee, suspending his campaign overnight.
Yeah, this announcement comes in the wake of a sexual assault accusation against him, which he denies.
For more, let's bring in NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand, who joins us now with the latest. Megan, good morning. What did Platner say when he made the announcement last night?
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, the key part in that 11-minute video was Platner's announcement that he was going to file paperwork to officially withdraw from the campaign. So in that video, he vigorously denied the allegations that were made against him, but argued that it wasn't the allegations, but rather, in his view, it was the political establishment putting structural pressure on him that ultimately led him to that moment. Take a listen to what else he had to say.
I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power.
So as you heard there, he criticized those in power. He had gone on to argue that those in power were using the allegations as an excuse to take away things that he needed to operate a campaign, things like fundraising, things like access to voter information. He also, in that video, addressed what comes next, arguing that in terms of who replaces him, that there had to be a process that was open, transparent, and democratic, going on to say that that the decisions should not be made in back rooms by people in places of political power. Guys.
Megan, what about the allegations themselves? Did Platner address the rape allegation in this video or say that he plans to fight it?
So he addressed the allegations broadly, saying that they were false. He actually started the video by addressing that broadly, saying that this is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. He said it's not real. He also criticized the process and the timing for this, saying that he had learned about this through media inquiries, actually. And he also argued that he had no time to truly respond before, in his words, he argued that there was no time for investigations before a corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. He also pointed to the timing of this, saying that this was the last week that this could happen before he would be officially on the ballot. So arguing that there was timing that factored into this as well. Remember, he had until Monday at 5 p.m. in order to withdraw withdraw if he was going to withdraw, and that ultimately then would give the Maine Democratic Party the opportunity to replace him moving forward.
So what happens from here? Do Democrats have anyone who is set to run against the incumbent Republican, Susan Collins?
Yeah, so there are several names, some people who have already thrown their hat into the ring, some people who have said that they are potentially interested in running. So I'll go through a couple of those names. Now you have Troy Jackson. He is the former Maine State Senate president. He also had previously run for the Maine Democratic primary for the governor's seat, and he had lost that. He had gotten the endorsement in that race from Senator Bernie Sanders. He had announced in a post to X that he's running to replace Platner. You also have Nirav Shah. He had also ran in that race for the Democratic primary for governor. He had also lost that as well. And he's the former director of Maine's Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, he hasn't officially jumped into this race yet, but in a statement before Platner had announced that he was not going to be running anymore, he had said that he was evaluating whether to run. You also have Dan Kleban. He's the founder of Maine Beer Company, and he had announced in a Substack post that he was interested in running. But one person, guys, who you are not going to see on the ballot is going to be Grey's Anatomy star Patrick Dempsey. He had been floated as a potential candidate, but he announced in an op-ed yesterday that he had decided not to run, guys.
Oh, all right. Megan Brand, by the way, our viewers may recognize a new last name there. Congratulations, Megan.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, we have some sad news to share this morning. Legendary Welsh singer Bonnie Tyler has died at the age of 75. In a statement posted to her official website, her family said they are heartbroken to announce that Bonnie unexpectedly passed away last night in a hospital in Portugal as a result of the illness that she was being treated for. They ask for privacy as they grieve. Best known for her iconic hits Total Eclipse of the Heart, It's a Heartache, and Holding Out for a Hero, Tyler's powerful voice helped define pop music in the late 1970s and 80s. Her career spanned more than 5 decades, leaving an enduring musical legacy.
Well, now let's get you a check on your Morning News Now weather. That extreme weather that has been sweeping across the country, it is expected to continue through the weekend, like here in the Northeast, where another round of strong storms are expected to bring more flash flooding to the rain-soaked region.
Or down south and out west, where the heat and high humidity are teaming up, making it feel like triple digits. Meteorologist Angie Lessman is tracking all of it for us. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, guys. We've got some trouble spots across the country today as we gear up for a busy travel day. Notice Philadelphia, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, Denver, all dealing with the potential for some likely delays at the airports. We've got those scattered showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Midwest and the South, and the East Coast will see some of those stronger storms as well. So heads up if you're traveling, hitting the roads, or headed to the airports this morning. Here's what we've got so far. Some of these showers kind of working across parts of Michigan. We've got some thunderstorms across parts of the plains, and then we've already got some of these flood alerts up for 25 million people. You can see Nashville included in that, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia as well. This is going to be something that we see through the rest of the morning hours and into the afternoon for the potential for some flooding and some strong storms. There's the look at the strong storms today. Your severe threat includes 19 million people up and down the plains and out towards the Ohio River Valley. This is going to leave us with the greatest potential for some wind gusts and some hail, but of course the tornado risk on the low end, that is always a good news, something to watch for even into the evening hours tonight. On top of that, there's the flash flooding concerns. We've got anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches of hourly rainfall rates possible here as the day goes on. So heads up if you live in Chicago, Indianapolis, and out towards the East Coast as we gear up for multiple additional inches of rain. We've got the potential to see localized amounts up to 5 inches here as we get through at least the next day or so. 53 million people, meanwhile, are under heat alerts. Much of that is across the west. We've got some including parts of the southern plains and then the southeast, including Wilmington, all the way down to Miami as we gear up for another really steamy kind of day. Temperatures back to the triple digits in a lot of spots. It's Phoenix at 113 degrees. It's Oklahoma City at 101. We'll feel like 105 in Austin this afternoon. And even the southeast, you're into the 90s, but feeling like those triple digits for the extended period. Not just today, but into tomorrow too. Mobile, 104 for what it feels like, 97 for what it feels like in Washington, D.C. This heat is locked in with us even as we get to the end of our work week and into our upcoming weekend. Back to you.
Angie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the urgent round-the-clock race to stabilize that failing New York City high-rise as investigators work to figure out what exactly made those steel beams buckle earlier this week, sending Midtown Manhattan into a frenzy.
First, though, after the break, the family of a 52-year-old who was shot and killed in another ICE-involved incident is now speaking out. Their emotional calls for a separate, independent investigation into his death. That's next.
We're back now with the latest on that deadly shooting involving an immigration officer in Houston. The Department of Homeland Security said agents were conducting a targeted operation when the suspect allegedly tried to run over an agent. That person was killed in the incident. His family is now telling NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson that they don't believe the official side of the story.
The moments after the deadly shooting, captured on camera. 52-year-old Lorenzo Salgado seen on the ground after being shot. DHS says they were conducting a targeted operation to capture Salgado, who was in the U.S. illegally from Mexico when he attempted to evade arrest. This brief clip appears to show Salgado's white van being tailed by a dark SUV. DHS says Salgado later weaponized his vehicle in an attempt to run over an ICE law enforcement officer who fired in self-defense.
We don't believe that at all.
Two of Salgado's sons speaking out.
I believe that when he saw those cars following him around, he thought that he was going to get robbed of his van, of his livelihood.
Do you believe if that vehicle had been identifiable, that your dad would still be alive?
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. He would have complied. He would have stopped.
It comes as President Trump's border czar says ICE is keeping the president's campaign pledge to increase immigration enforcement.
ICE in the last week and a half is making record arrests every single day, and we're going to continue that. You're going to see those numbers even go higher.
Salgado's sons are calling for an independent investigation.
He just wanted to live a life, a simple life of work and family, and that got taken away from us.
And we are live on the scene where demonstrators have been turning out to protest what has happened here and also demanding answers and accountability. And of course, one of those questions is whether or not these agents were wearing body cameras. We know that in recent months, as these fatal incidents with ICE have increased, that there has been a call for more transparency and accountability that has included DHS saying that they are expanding their body camera program nationwide. But I will tell you, despite being the most well-funded law enforcement agency in the country, at last check, only about a quarter of agents actually wear body cams. Back to you.
Priscilla Thompson, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, crews are working around the clock in an effort to stabilize a high-rise building in New York City following a serious structural failure. Investigators are now facing tough questions about what caused steel beams to buckle and floors to sink. Officials say the building has not shifted further, but the cause remains under investigation. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the latest.
As crews race to fully stabilize this New York City high-rise, adding support floor by floor.
We were staring outside the window and we saw that it was kind of tilting a little bit.
City officials digging into what went wrong, resulting in a terrifying lean over the heart of Midtown. A failure to provide steel reinforcement as per approved plans led to the cause of the incident. The Department of Buildings wrote in a complaint that they later deleted, saying it was not accurate. The DOB adding the investigation is still underway and noting that while the building is now considered stable, all construction activities except for emergency work have to stop.
They're going to be working through the day to get all the way up to the roof and all the way down to floor 9.
The former home to Pfizer's headquarters is being converted into 1,600 luxury apartments, including building more floors. It was just under that addition on the 21st floor that support beams buckled.
What kinds of questions are being asked right now?
Was the design okay? Was the construction okay? And were the materials that were used okay? And the sequence of the construction is important as well.
The developer, Metro Loft, called the incident nothing more than a typical construction mishap to the New York Times, and telling NBC News it was never concerned about a collapse, adding, "We've identified the issue and developed a clear plan to fix it." Some evacuated from the area are now being allowed to return. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
All right, coming up, a pretty frightening medical episode weathered by one of our beloved former colleagues here at NBC News.
When we come back, Katie Couric's stunning amnesia diagnosis that is now shining a critical light on a rare form of memory loss. That's next, right here on Morning News Now.
We are back with a scary health episode involving our former colleague here at NBC News, Katie Couric. In a recent Substack post, Couric described the frightening moment where she suddenly lost her memory.
Her experience is now shining a light on a rare temporary syndrome called transient global amnesia. NBC News senior national correspondent Kate Snow has the details. Kate?
Savannah, Vicki, what happened to Katie Couric is exceedingly rare. It came on all of a sudden. I had actually seen her in Aspen, Colorado the night before, and she was fine. The good news is this does not have any long-term effects.
Younger people are getting their news and information on their iPhones.
2 Saturdays ago, Katie Couric appeared on a panel about the future of journalism at the Aspen Ideas Festival. She now says she doesn't remember any of it. A few minutes later, her husband John says she was weak, dizzy, and a little out of it.
We're going to be getting reaction to that this morning.
The journalist and former Today anchor has always been willing to share her own health journeys, famously having a colonoscopy live on air to encourage others to get the test. In a Substack post, Katie says when she was taken to a hospital, a doctor asked a series of questions. She thought it was 2024 and Joe Biden was president. She couldn't remember the name of her 3-week-old granddaughter. The doctor turned to the nurses and said, "Initiate stroke protocol." An MRI of Katie's brain showed she had not had a stroke, but she couldn't retain information and kept asking her husband and doctors what had happened. Katie says she was later diagnosed with transient global amnesia, a sudden episode of memory loss that's rare but more common in people over 50.
This is arguably one of the scariest moments in a patient or a family member's life. But as a neurologist, it's the best diagnosis I can make because I know these patients will return to living a completely normal life.
Dr. Laura Stein is a neurologist at Mount Sinai Health System.
Some of the triggers include stress. So an example would be physical stress, emotional stress, physical exertion.
There's no one reason that this happens to people.
There is not, and that's part of what makes it so hard to understand.
Katie says she has no memory of about 7 hours. While this was a freaky occurrence, she wrote, it could have been much more serious. So ultimately, I'm relieved.
Katie says she was feeling better by 9 p.m. that night. And, you know, she spoke about this out loud, as she has so often, to try to shine a light and make sure people know about this medical condition. One thing that neurologists say is if you're having these kind of symptoms, if you suddenly lose your memory, you really should get seen by a doctor, go to an ER, because it could be what Katie Couric had, but it also could be a stroke. Back to you, Vicki Savannah.
No, Kate, thank you so much. So many more questions on this.
Absolutely. We're lucky now to be joined by NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel to keep discussing. Dr. Patel, I mean, I think so many people just, of course, also like we all know and love Katie. She was part of your home, and you hear something like this, it just is so crazy. It's also very rare. I know the stat is it impacts less than 1% of patients every year, but what more should people know about it and who's at risk?
Yeah, transient global amnesia is a medical condition, not only incredibly rare, but usually seen above the age of 50 or in people with a history of migraines themselves or migraines in their family. Those are what we've seen as risk factors, but it can happen in anyone outside of those risk factors. The good news, as you mentioned, is that it's completely benign. I think the key here is that you don't know it's benign until you have that evaluated, just like you heard Katie had. So I think that other than that, I think as you see, all the other risk factors are some of the typical ones that we see with stroke, such as heart disease and high cholesterol or hyperlipidemia. But again, incredibly rare.
You know, Dr. Patel, the National Institutes of Health say there aren't any clear medical risk factors for temporary amnesia. Are there things that might trigger it? Could it be stress? Could it be, you know, a precursor to anything? That's what I always worry about when it comes to your brain.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so here's the kind of the bad is good news. The bad is that the triggers are very common. Look at this list. Everything from emotional stress, something that I think many of us go through on a very frequent basis, all the way to strenuous physical activities, sexual intercourse, all that trends around cold and hot plunges, that can trigger it. Think of it this way, though, Vicki. This is really, your brain is a complex system of computer parts and neurons and activity. This is a bit of a research, just like our electricity surgeons. Some of these activities cause our electricity and our wires to surge, and then it's temporary and it resets. The good news here, just like our electricity coming back, is our brain comes back as normal. So I don't want people to avoid these activities, but it is important if you're around someone who has this kind of memory loss to try to think about what was going on because we can think through whether this could happen again. And you might want to connect it to some activity if that was, in fact, a factor.
So it doesn't cause any long-term effects, right? But could you get it again?
Yeah. So the risk of recurrence, remember, we're starting with something that's so incredibly rare, less than 1% of the population. But then a recurrence is even more rare, but it can happen. About 1 in 8 people who have TGA, transient global amnesia, might have a recurrence. It's usually seen, though. I had a patient that started having these episodes in their 20s. So as you get it in a younger age, you can see a recurrence. For the majority of people, there will not be a recurrence. But listen, if you're Katie Couric or anybody that's kind of diagnosed with this condition, it's going to be something that will constantly be present in your mind. So I do think if you've had it once, it's smart to tell family and friends, because it's not going to be you who can present to the ER. It's going to be somebody around you so that they can be aware and they can make a health professional aware.
That's a really good point. Share this so people around you know about it. You know, Dr. Patel, Kate touched on it a little bit at the end of her story, but at what point should you go see a doctor to talk about memory or brain function concerns, even just on a normal basis? If you just want to get a checkup, like, are things progressing? Am I okay?
Yeah, listen, I think this is one of the most common reasons that people come to me, but here's the thing I want people to remember. If it's sudden, that is 911. That is not call my doctor and try to get an appointment, because memory cells, brain cells, a sudden loss or change in speech, or the very reasons that I think Katie Couric went to the ER in the first place, that is an emergency, because we can initiate, like the doctor did in Colorado, initiate a stroke protocol that can truly save your life and save your brain. And that's why I think that if it's sudden, 911. Don't even try to get through to any other matter of care. But then in general, the majority of people, as they see changes in memory, changes in speech, I've had patients, including some days myself, when I'm really tired and I see a change in my handwriting, anything that persists over time, bring it up with your doctor, and don't be afraid to talk about it, because many Americans are going through this, and it doesn't always mean that it's one thing or another. Just get through this, because it's a pretty common set of symptoms.
Dr. Patel, we were having a little trouble with your audio at the beginning of this, and I do just want to go back, if you don't mind, because I think it was such good information about who is at risk, like what you should just kind of be in the back of your mind, maybe, no real cause for concern out of nowhere, but what you might know about yourself and your own health history that could mean, like, okay, maybe it's just something I should be aware of.
Yeah, for transient global amnesia, it's older patients or someone with a history of migraines in themselves, or even a persistent history of migraines in their family. We also see people with a history of heart disease or high cholesterol that could be at risk. But in general, we can also see people with what Katie had that have had none of those risk factors other than older age. Usually that's the only risk factor.
All right. Well, given my history of migraines, you'll be getting a personal call later, Dr. Patel, with more concerns and questions. Okay. Thank you so much.
We are back with a warning for parents about a viral social media trend involving a popular children's toy. Doctors say kids are suffering major burns after heating up dough-like toys, which can cause them to explode. NBC's George Solis has the story and a warning. Some of these images may be distressing.
Chocolate? It's the squishy stress toy that surged in popularity, found on store shelves across America. They're marketed as harmless, sensory gadgets, but these goo-like toys are now at the center of a dangerous viral trend. Reports of videos online encouraging children to heat or microwave the gel-filled toys to make them more pliable. But once heated, medical professionals say the gel inside becomes a hot, glue-like substance. Something Katie Spence's 13-year-old daughter discovered after leaving her toy, called a NATO, in their hot car.
She squeezed it once and it popped on her. She was screaming, get it off me, get it off. And I didn't know what it was initially.
Spence says weeks later, her daughter is still recovering from her injuries.
It's like I couldn't even help her. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything to help her besides literally rush her to the hospital.
A similar story earlier this year for Caleb Shabala, whose mom says he had burns on his face, his eyes swelling shut, after she says he put his NATO in the microwave.
I didn't know it was a trend on TikTok before, because my friend did it before, but she put it in for, she didn't get hurt.
Shriners Children's Boston nurse practitioner Jill Pachuco says they've seen a dramatic spike in cases over the last 6 months, and that some of the injuries are serious.
What are some of these children needing after this gel-like substance gets on their skin? Yeah, so some of these kids have required hospitalization for a day or two after the injury, depending on where the injuries have occurred.
NATO is one of the most popular brands of these sensory toys. Its maker, Boston-based Schilling Toys, warns cubes should not be left in cars or direct sun. In a statement to NBC News, the company says in part, "We are disappointed to see that there has been a trend on social media demonstrating misuse of our NATO products, and say they're working with social media companies like TikTok to take down content containing NATO product misuse."
Our thanks to George Solis for that report. And experts warn parents also need to be wary of knockoff products, those dupes that are made with different substances that are not safe for children. A really important warning, Savannah. Let's end the hour by introducing you to two sisters who are trying to bake the world a better place. It started as a passion for dishing out desserts to friends and family when they were kids.
Now they run a booming business from their food truck and storefront on Long Island. The pair told today's Dylan Dreyer that building it together has been the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I knew I'd have a bakery one day, and I knew it would be cool. But if you said, like, your sister is your business partner, that's the part that would blow my mind.
Sisters Sammy Iserman and Sydney Ferraro are literally on a roll. They're the founders of the New York-based food truck and bakery For Goodness Cakes.
So I did grow up baking cakes for our friends and family. And then every year or every occasion, more and more outsiders, I feel like, would trust me to make their cakes. In 7th grade, I made somebody's wedding cake.
After college, Sydney went to culinary school and worked as a recipe developer, while Sammy started her career in fashion. But an impulse purchase set them both on a new path.
I remember her sending a picture in our group chat of her with the truck. Like, I bought this. And I was like, that's insane.
Sydney found a 97 Chevy box truck on Craigslist for $7,000, dreaming of a bakery on wheels.
They were a lot cheaper than like a storefront, and you didn't have to pay rent. If your location's bad, you could move it. I guess it was right after I purchased it, we were talking, and we both wanted to leave our jobs, so we were like, let's just do it together.
The project was no cakewalk.
It's like, we can get this fridge, but how do you screw the fridge into the wall? Because when you drive, like, things could fall over. If I'm in a bad mood, like, I could take it out on her and I know she's not gonna get mad. I'm not gonna quit. If you have a sister, you know how sisters act, and like, you could say whatever you want to each other and it's fine.
For Goodness Cakes hit the gas in 2019.
The first year we were open, we would sell like 7 cookies a day, and we're like, we're rich. From there, social media helped us so much.
Their secret ingredient, unique flavors and creative presentation.
I would say our classics are our rainbow cookies. They're all 6 colors of the rainbow. You're never gonna find just 3 colors. Right now, banana is having a moment. How do we make this cooler than just selling banana bread? People like brownies, we combine them. What else would make it cool? Cheesecake. So we make like a banana bread brownie cheesecake, and it's like a sandwich.
The desserts are also diet friendly.
So I follow a vegan diet. When we started our business, we were like, we want to have things, and it's not just like some dry one-off option. We really pride ourselves on our stuff is really good. Like, you wouldn't know that it's vegan and gluten-free.
After years of serving goodies on the go,
Thank you.
Sammy and Sydney just celebrated the grand opening of their bake shop, a symbol of the sisters' sweet success.
I feel like the sweetest part of this journey so far has definitely been the people. These people are so kind of nice that they'll come to us and they'll drive an hour out of their way to come to us. It's been so great. And of course, obviously working together has been kind of like a given. Like, we're just working together has been so great.
Our thanks to Dylan for sharing that story. And if you are local to the New York City area, you can actually taste Sam and Sydney's treats Friday through Sundays out on Long Island.
Oh, I'm going to be stopping by.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing. I mean,
you're out there a lot.
I know. Love it.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us as the news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Vicki Wynn in for Joe today. Right now on Morning News Now, deadly escalation breaking overnight. The United States carrying out a wave of new strikes on Iranian coastal cities less than a day after President Trump said the ceasefire was over. Iran reports 14 people were killed in the strikes as it hits back at the U.S. bases in the Gulf, putting the region back on the brink. President Trump now warning he has run out of patience.
We can play games, but I'm not sure I want to make a deal. Let's just finish the job.
We will have the very latest on the newest exchange of attacks and where this all leaves peace talks. Plus, oil prices are spiking again amid the fresh turmoil and uncertainty surrounding the critical Strait of Hormuz. What these new tensions might mean for gas prices at the pumps and your wallets. Also this morning, emergency crews are rushing to stabilize a Manhattan building amid fears it could collapse. What we are learning about the worrying incident as the investigation into what happened gets underway. And preparing for takeoff for airports and passengers, they are bracing for the busiest travel day of the month. So will it be a smooth cruise or a bumpy ride? What you can expect as the mid-summer travel surge begins.
Oh, gosh, there we go. It's time for craziness at the airports.
I know. Lucky I've been staying away for a little bit.
I know.
We've got a trip at the end of the month, so we'll see.
Between the crowds and the weather. Oy.
Exactly. We begin this hour with that breaking news out of the Middle East. The U.S. and Iran showing no signs of de-escalating attacks a day after President Trump said that the ceasefire between the countries was over.
Overnight, U.S. Central Command said it launched another wave of strikes against Iran, hitting multiple coastal cities. Iran's health ministry says 14 people were killed and dozens were injured. Tehran said it struck back, targeting U.S. bases in the Gulf. The escalation is casting major doubt on peace talks, with President Trump saying he now wants to, quote, finish the job. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez has the latest from Jerusalem. Raf, good morning.
Hey, Savannah and Vicky, good morning. Sirens have been going off all across the Gulf this morning as Iran retaliates with drone and missile attacks targeting U.S. bases. Now, the president has been sending somewhat mixed signals about whether there can be a return to negotiations after this. But what is clear is that both sides are still prepared to fight.
This morning, a new round of intensive back-and-forth strikes between the U.S. and Iran, hours after President Trump declared he thinks the ceasefire is now over.
We just hit them very hard, and I say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20.
U.S. Central Command says it's hit around 170 targets over 2 nights of bombing, aiming to stop Iran's attacks on commercial ships that refuse to take its route through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state media releasing footage of what it says are missiles launched in retaliation at U.S. bases in the Gulf. Sirens blaring in Kuwait, and Bahrain says it was also targeted, but no reports of casualties or major damage. The question now, has the ceasefire fully collapsed, or will negotiations continue? Overnight, the president saying he's lost patience with peace talks.
They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
Earlier at the NATO summit, he said he doesn't think full-scale war will start again. But when asked overnight,
I don't know. We'd win it very quickly. They have very little left.
Iran accuses the U.S. of violating the ceasefire, but isn't ruling out a return to negotiations after its massive days-long funeral for its former supreme leader. His coffin greeted by enormous crowds of mourners in neighboring Iraq. And for the first time, Iran releasing images of the rubble of the supreme leader's compound, destroyed in the first hours of the conflict. The footage is highly edited and cannot be independently verified by NBC News. Not a war, but also not a peace. Instead, a dangerous uncertainty hanging over the Strait of Hormuz and the broader Middle East.
And we are hearing from Iran's top negotiator this morning. He's saying that whatever happens, Iran will remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. and its allies have consistently said that is unacceptable, and so the deadlock continues. Savannah, Vicky.
All right, Raf, thank you.
Overnight, President Trump returned home from that critical NATO summit in Turkey, and this morning there is new attention on how he made the war with Iran a center point of the meeting. During bilateral meetings, the president took aim at fellow NATO allies, accusing them of not pulling their weight in both international trade and with the war with Iran. He also expressed frustration with the Iranian regime, saying that they violated their memorandum of understanding, and even went so far as to say Iran has put a bounty on his head. He also met with Ukrainian President Zelensky and announced that the U.S. will give Ukraine a production license to build its own Patriot interceptor missiles. That is a major request from Ukraine's president to defend his country against Russia.
Well, this morning, the escalation with Iran is also driving up oil and gas prices. After weeks of declines, gas prices jumped 5 cents today.
Yeah, and crude oil, well, that surged more than 4% yesterday, while two of the biggest stock indexes on Wall Street closed in the red.
Let's bring in NBC News Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans to walk us through all this. Christine, good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, this has been some good news we've been talking with you about for a while, that we were seeing these falling oil prices. Tell us what's happening right now.
Well, look, you have an escalation with the Iran situation, and that means higher oil prices. That is the relationship there. So you've got gas prices overnight, which track oil. Gas prices up 4 or 5 cents overnight. So we've been seeing progress, and that progress appears to be slowing. So about $3.84 a gallon. Now, that is better, much better than the $4.50, which was the peak post-war. But the price for a gallon of gas in the U.S. right before the war with Iran began was $2.98. And again, those gas prices closely track the oil prices you see there on your screen. So when you have oil prices start to go up, we get concerned about gas prices following. And there's your perspective. Today, $3.84, the recent peak above $4.50, and that is a lot more than it was pre-war. So that recent progress appears to be slowing because of the president saying the memorandum of understanding has been derailed. The ceasefire is off.
Christine, what are we seeing? How are the markets responding to all of this today?
So stock markets are a little unnerved. They definitely were yesterday, although you could see gains for the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ has been driven by so much of that artificial intelligence investment, so it has sort of defied some of the other gravity there overall. But markets have been really pricing in, as they say in Wall Street speak, markets have been pricing in a resolution to the war with Iran. And we saw yesterday more escalation. We saw us closer to February than a resolution, and that is something that maybe investors will have to grapple with. I will say, though, there's a split screen here. There are consumers and regular Americans who are bedeviled by affordability concerns across the economy. But the stock market has done very, very well because companies are earning money and they're benefiting really from this big artificial intelligence investment build out.
Let's talk about a couple other indicators here, just like of how people are feeling about this. Government bond yields, those are also rising. What does that mean about how people are reacting to the uncertainty that we see?
So bond yields rising, that is a signal of what's happening over here overall about the concern about inflation and what happens next. Maybe the Fed will not be cutting interest rates. Maybe the Fed will actually be raising interest rates to try to contain inflation sparked by the war with Iran. That drives up bond yields. And look, that sounds so wonky. You look at a 30-year mortgage. The 30-year mortgage rate ticked up again, closer to 7% than 6% now. So all of these things matter for the money that you're using and borrowing every day and for consumer wallets. So watching what the bond market is telling us as well about where we go from here.
You know, I'm really curious about what this means for consumers in the overall, because we're obviously in the middle of the summer travel season. The holidays are right around the corner. It doesn't seem like it, but this is like what we're going to be talking about next. And then we just recently saw a jobs report that didn't look so good, right? There were so many cuts in travel, leisure, hospitality, where we usually see like a big boost during the summer months. So what's happening on that part of the economy?
Ironically, maybe a weakening job market prevents the Fed from raising interest rates, so it keeps rates where they are. But for the rest of us, look, we had been seeing all this progress on oil and gas prices, right? I thought, oh, maybe we're going to get airfares that start to decline by the end of the year. I haven't seen it yet. And I mean, if you're an air carrier that has had really high jet fuel spikes in the first part of the year, I feel like you're going to be slow to lower those fares, especially since there's still demand. So I'm looking at things like food prices, transportation costs, airfare. If we have oil prices that are still higher than they were pre-war, that'll be pressure on all of those prices. And just to remind you, every day you're hearing these oil prices, 74, 76, 72. What does that mean? Oil prices, U.S. oil prices were $67 a barrel before the war. Right now, they're closer to 74. So every time you see oil continue to stay above pre-war levels, that's just more concern about consumer prices staying high too.
What specific indicator will you be watching over the next few days? You know, we talked through oil prices, gas prices, how the market's reacting, but just to kind of understand how this is going to level out.
We do have an inflation number coming next week that I will be fascinated with, and I know that's a little nerdy, but it's going to give us a really good read on whether there's this pass-through from these oil prices that have been rising and they've been falling more near term, but they have been rising since February. Are those higher fuel prices, translating into higher vegetable prices? Because it costs more to move things to grocery stores, packaged good prices, apparel prices. When you start to see high energy prices trickle through the rest of the economy, it's harder to get that inflation out. And look, inflation is something every single person grapples with because you spend your money all the time. So it's a really kind of nefarious thing in an economy and can derail an otherwise strong economy. I will say the economy has been so resilient. The last few years, it has been remarkable to me, all of the big changes in policy, tariffs and all these trade policies and a war with Iran and a war in Ukraine. The fact that the American economy has powered ahead so well is something to be to note, I think, because the U.S. economy is the most dynamic and the strongest in the world.
All right. Well, that is a bit of good news. Even though sometimes people aren't feeling it at home.
That's right.
The problem.
That's right.
A lot to keep following here. Christine, thank you.
Great to see you guys.
Well, now to that major shakeup in the Maine Senate race. Embattled Democratic nominee Graham Platner suspended his campaign overnight. His announcement comes in the wake of a sexual assault accusation against him, which he denies. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson is following the story and has the latest.
This morning, a political bombshell from a defiant Graham Platner.
We are suspending campaign operations.
The embattled Democratic candidate saying overnight in a video statement he plans to withdraw from Maine's critical U.S. Senate race, while also denying a newly surfaced rape allegation against him.
The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real.
Platner also railing against a party apparatus that he says pulled its support, including a vow not to help him raise money.
Those in power who have the ability to do so are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign. I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not.
Once seen as a rising star, Platner facing a firestorm these last few days after a former romantic partner, Jenny Rassicott, publicly alleged he sexually assaulted her 5 years ago.
Did Graham Platner rape you?
By definition, yes. Absolutely. He violated multiple layers of consent that night.
Now, the implosion of Platner's campaign throwing into chaos a race Democrats saw as their best hope of flipping a Republican Senate seat, currently held by Susan Collins. Maine Democrats will have just 2.5 weeks to select a replacement for Platner, the state party saying it'll hold a nominating convention.
And what I care about is that Mainers feel represented in this process, that they feel included in this process, that we have the full transparency every single step of the way.
Our thanks to Hallie Jackson. Democrats have until July 27th to nominate another candidate.
Well, crews are working around the clock in an effort to stabilize a high-rise building in New York City following a serious structural failure. Investigators are now facing tough questions about what caused these steel beams you're seeing right here to buckle and some of the floors to sink. Officials say the building has not shifted further, but the case remains under investigation. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the latest.
As crews race to fully stabilize this New York City high-rise, adding support floor by floor.
We were staring outside the window and we saw that it was kind of tilting a little bit.
City officials digging into what went wrong, resulting in a terrifying lean over the heart of Midtown. A failure to provide steel reinforcement as per approved plans led to the cause of the incident. The Department of Buildings wrote in a complaint that they later deleted, saying it was not accurate. The DOB adding the investigation is still underway and noting that while the building is now considered stable, all construction activities except for emergency work have to stop.
They're going to be working through the day to get all the way up to the roof and all the way down to floor 9.
The former home to Pfizer's headquarters is being converted into 1,600 luxury apartments, including building more floors. It was just under that addition on the 21st floor that support beams buckled.
What kinds of questions are being asked right now?
Was the design okay? Was the construction okay? And were the materials that were used okay? And the sequence of the construction is important as well.
The developer Metroloft called the incident nothing more than a typical construction mishap to the New York Times, and telling NBC News was never concerned about a collapse, adding, "We've identified the issue and developed a clear plan to fix it." Some evacuated from the area are now being allowed to return. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
All right, if you're heading to the airport, you'll have plenty of company because it is expected to be the busiest flying day of the month.
Today. Shocking.
I know, after the 4th and everything.
Right? The FAA says more than 56,000 flights are expected today, surpassing even the busiest day of the 4th of July rush. It is a good reminder you don't need a holiday weekend to run into long lines and packed terminals this time of year.
NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa joins us from Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Maggie, good morning. So like we just said, I mean, we just finished this record July 4th travel surge. You'd think that that's when people are mostly traveling, but now here we are almost a week later. What's going on right now and how bad is it this morning?
Yeah, guys, it does seem incredibly random, doesn't it? Like, who's ever heard of the classic 9th of July travel surge? But as you point out, here we are, and we were kind of questioning it, too. The FAA says this is absolutely real, thanks to a combination of people, if you can still believe it, coming home from their 4th of July trips or trips they had planned around the 4th. A lot of people we talked to were going out of the country during the 4th because those fares were cheaper. Also, they say this is just general summer vacation travel surge, which is really holding strong this summer, in part a couple of reasons. Number one, analysts say despite higher airfares, families are just still really prioritizing those summer trips this year. And number two, they say a lot of school districts, this is interesting, across the country, their first day of school for the new semester has been creeping earlier and earlier into August. So a lot of families are cramming those summer vacations into June and July. But yeah, this is topping any July 4th numbers. It's even topping this past year's Thanksgiving travel peak, which only had roughly 52,000 flights on that day as well. So it seems random, but FAA says, no, it's absolutely real, just a randomly busy day.
The old July 9th travel rush.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping my in-laws are doing okay. They're trying to head back to California right now. I would have told them a little bit differently if I had known this.
I mean, you don't know.
Right, no, I know. Terrible. What are airports doing differently, Maggie, like to try to handle a day like this? Or are they just staffed up, ready to go?
They're staffed up, ready to go, and they are staffed up, ready to go in large part because of obviously they had the America 250 travel on their brains. Also, there's the World Cup travel surge, which is fueling this a little bit too. So extra TSA officers manning those lines, extra new high-tech options to help them scan suitcases faster. I mean, effectively, they have been warning us ahead of the holiday and ahead of the World Cup that TSA in particular, especially after those government shutdowns fueled staffing shortages earlier this year, they're not messing around. They're putting more manpower at these lines, which appear to be moving quickly. But again, guys, it is, as you can see, a busy day here at O'Hare. They say they're ready.
Maggie, we also just keep talking about how expensive flights are. What are people saying about like how so many of them are getting on planes despite that?
Yeah, I know. We talked about this a little bit, but it's really interesting. We kind of dug into the numbers. Domestic flights to top destinations, like the research shows Chicago, thank you very much, and Denver, they're up 5% from this time last year. And families just say, there's a new study out saying that they're willing to eat that cost, some willing to go into debt to take on these family vacations. Those are our summer airport trips right there. You can see especially Thursday through Sunday. Those are the busiest travel days. No surprise there. A lot of people build their vacation around weekends. You should arrive at the airport early if you're planning to fly in the near future. Try to get TSA pre-check, touchless ID. I have touchless. It's fantastic. You sail right through. And then, of course, guys, always, we love this pun, pack your patience for those long lines and just allow for that extra time so you're not stressing out. Because, again, we have this long line forming behind us here. It randomly, you have those surges come in, and then people are really caught off guard.
Yeah, honestly, it's just hitting me at how it really looks crazy behind you, Maggie.
It's hectic for 8:19 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
July 9th.
Who knew? Who knew? I'm going to mark that in my calendar for next year. So pack your patience, obviously pack your snacks. Maggie, what about gas prices? And let's shift to the roads. AAA is also saying millions of people are hitting the roads after this long holiday weekend. So give us some tips, some advice for drivers to keep in mind.
Yeah, and it's something that we're seeing throughout the entire summer, is a lot of people are kind of taking those vacations closer to home if they can. They're driving instead of flying. The good news is, you're right, gas prices still falling from their peak during the Iran war. We always want to clarify the peak with that. So right now they're at $3.84 nationwide for a gallon average. You can see last month it was $4.16. Last week it was still about the same. So we're hovering in that $3.83, $3.84 range. Obviously, again, good news, but same deal. I mean, AAA says if anybody wants to hit the road, you want to take into account the fact that even though it's your long weekend, this is still a work day. You're still going to hit rush hour traffic. So always allow for that extra time there as well. And again, those are the added tips they sent us. Check your tires, inspect belts and hoses. This is kind of summer specific travel tips because, you know, summers are harder on cars. Check fluid levels, cooling systems, and always have an emergency kit and extra water. And as you guys point out, snacks. We love a snack, don't we? I know. You don't want to get hangry on your summer trip, so it's always good to remember.
If ever anybody runs into an issue, my bag has food.
No,
always.
like here in the halls too, Maggie.
There you
She's
go.
just like, you need a snack?
I don't like a hangry moment ever.
She'll just pop something out when we're anchoring together in between things. I'm like, where did that come from? Maggie, thank you so much.
My blood sugar gets low, Savannah. All right, time now for a check on your morning news now weather.
NBC meteorologist Angie Lastman, she is tracking this next round of severe weather moving across the country. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, guys. We've got some trouble spots across the country today as we gear up for a busy travel day. Notice Philadelphia, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, Denver, all dealing with the potential for some likely delays at the airports. We've got those scattered showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Midwest and the South, and the East Coast will see some of those stronger storms as well. So heads up if you're traveling, hitting the roads, or headed to the airports this morning. Here's what we've got so far. Some of these showers kind of working across parts of Michigan. We've got some thunderstorms across parts of the plains, and then we've already got some of these flood alerts up for 25 million people. You can see Nashville included in that, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia as well. This is going to be something that we see through the rest of the morning hours and into the afternoon for the potential for some flooding and some strong storms. There's the look at the strong storms today. Your severe threat includes 19 million people up and down the plains and out towards the Ohio River Valley. This is going to leave us with the greatest potential for some wind gusts and some hail, but of course the tornado risk on the low end, that is always a good news, something to watch for even into the evening hours tonight. On top of that, there's the flash flooding concerns. We've got anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches of hourly rainfall rates possible here as the day goes on. So heads up if you live in Chicago, Indianapolis, and out towards the East Coast as we gear up for multiple additional inches of rain. We've got the potential to see localized amounts up to 5 inches here as we get through at least the next day or so. 53 million people, meanwhile, are under heat alerts. Much of that is across the west. We've got some including parts of the southern plains and then the southeast, including Wilmington, all the way down to Miami as we gear up for another really steamy kind of day. Temperatures back to the triple digits in a lot of spots. It's Phoenix at 113 degrees. It's Oklahoma City at 101. We'll feel like 105 in Austin this afternoon. And even the southeast, you're into the 90s, but feeling like those triple digits for the extended period. Not just today, but into tomorrow too. Mobile, 104 for what it feels like, 97 for what it feels like in Washington, D.C. This heat is locked in with us even as we get to the end of our work week and into our upcoming weekend.
Welcome back. In Utah, a high-profile boarding school may be forced to shut its doors for good. It is the same treatment center where hotel heiress and socialite Paris Hilton was sent as a teen and where she says she suffered intense physical and mental abuse. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has the details.
A major win for Paris Hilton and other girls she says endured abuse at her former boarding school. Utah authorities revoking the license of a school and mental health treatment center she has spent years fighting to close.
The investigation ultimately uncovered multiple noncompliances.
Allegations of abuse mounted for years behind the doors of Provo Canyon School. Some who have attended the behavioral health center detail a haunting history of mistreatment, bolstered by one of their most high-profile alleged victims.
I was force-fed medications and sexually abused by the staff. I was violently restrained and dragged down hallways, stripped naked, and thrown into solitary confinement.
Hilton taking damning allegations to the halls of Congress, part of her passionate crusade to close the school.
I will not stop until America's youth is safe.
And telling NBC News in 2021, she spent time there as a teenager and buried her trauma for decades.
I experienced things that no child should ever experience. I wish I would have spoken up sooner. but I just didn't even want to think about it.
Now the state of Utah shuttering the school's doors after the Utah Department of Health and Human Services says an investigation uncovered violations of state law.
Failing to ensure each client is free from neglect and engaging in unnecessary restraint and aggressive physical contact with the client.
The school CEO, Tim Marshall, did not respond to NBC News' request for comment, but told the New York Times this week that they disagree with the decision and are evaluating all available legal and administrative options, including an appeal. Hilton writing, "The news I've been fighting and praying for is finally here." Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the Justice Department trying to get access to voter data.
NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand joins us with that and more. Hey, Megan, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, let's kick things off with an update at the Justice Department, which is trying to get voter registration list data from each state. The DOJ has framed this as necessary to make sure that states have proper voter registration and voter list maintenance programs. But 30 states, along with D.C. as well, have refused to hand over the data. That's leading to legal battles. So where do those legal battles stand? Well, there's ongoing litigation in 20 states, while litigation has been dismissed in 8 others. A handful of other states are going through the appeals process, and more than a dozen states have willingly provided the information. Next, let's go to the Senate, which now has a new date for Jay Clayton's confirmation hearing. Clayton is President Trump's nominee to be the Director of National Intelligence. The hearing was originally supposed to take place last month, but President Trump intervened. At the time, President Trump had argued that the hearing should not happen until the person nominated to be Clayton's replacement as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York is confirmed. Now, remember, President Trump had tapped housing official Bill Pulte to serve as the acting National Intelligence Director after Tulsi Gabbard stepped down. Finally, let's turn to the Supreme Court. President Trump said in a Truth Social post that he would ask the Supreme Court to rehear the case about his push to limit birthright citizenship. Now, let's take a step back here. The Supreme Court can decide to rehear cases, but it's really rare. The last time that the court agreed to rehear a case based on merits was more than 60 years ago, back in 1965. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning, guys.
All right, Megan, thank you so much.
Meanwhile, health insurance premiums for millions of Americans could rise by an average of 14% next year. This is according to a new report. Insurance companies that sell plans through the Affordable Care Act are proposing the double-digit rate increases. They're saying there are rising health care costs, inflation, and the expiration of enhanced tax credits. NBC News health and medical reporter Berkeley Lovelace Jr. joins me now with more on this. Berkeley, good morning to you. So this report comes from the nonpartisan health policy group KFF. What more is driving these proposed double-digit premium increases?
Yeah, it's really because everything is getting more expensive, including healthcare. So costs like hospital visits or paying for workers are going up. Prescription drugs, including GLP-1s, also factored into the insurer's calculations. That factored for a very small portion, but the report noted that GLP-1 costs are rising rapidly. And then, of course, more people are going uninsured. So what that means is with fewer people paying into the insurance pool, the remaining enrollees have to the insurance basically have to kind of spread that cost out among the remaining enrollees. And so that means premiums going up.
Oh, that's interesting, like a smaller pool of payers. Berkeley, these rate hikes, they're still just proposals at this point. So what happens next? And how likely is it that they will go into effect?
Yeah, that's right. So these are just filings that the insurers send to states. So they'll send that proposed rate, and then the state regulators will review it, and then the insurers will finalize the rates. So it is possible that the states could push back on these rate increases. But I will say that experts say that it is very rare that these rates change much from the first proposal. So, for example, last year, the proposed rate was 18%, and the final rate was 20%. So they are expecting this still to be a double-digit increase.
Berkeley, let's zoom out. Let's say these increases go through, they're approved. What does this mean for the millions of people who do get their coverage through the ACA marketplace? Do you think there will be more people who then just go without health insurance?
Yeah, so unfortunately, this means that more people will find the cost to be too expensive and be forced to drop coverage. For example, in the report, a family of 4 who makes around $100,000 a year could see their premiums go up by more than $100 next year. A single person making $55,000 a year could see their premiums go up by $60 a month. And so we saw this year that about 3 million people lost their insurance on the ACA, largely due to these premium increases and, of course, the loss of the enhanced tax subsidies. We also see people getting worse coverage. So things like high deductible plans. So they come with very cheap premiums, but people have to pay a lot more, thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket before their coverage actually kicks in. And so unfortunately, people are either going to be uninsured or have to go into these high deductible plans.
Berkeley, you do a lot of reporting in this area. Talk to us about some of the resources that are available to people who are struggling to pay for their health care, whether it's a local organization or a statewide or even federal programs that do help and step in to cover some of those gaps.
That's right. So there are local organizations. Also, it's important to check whether your state has something called an ACA navigator. So these are places where they help you enroll into the Affordable Care Act coverage and help you explore your options. So they can help you decide which plan would be best for you as well. And also, of course, there is, of course, still the standard ACA subsidy. So people with very low incomes may still qualify for a tax credit. These are different from the enhanced tax credits, and that could help absorb some of that cost. So it's important to check whether or not you qualify for that as well.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And Berkeley, talk about when, you see higher premiums like this, more people are going without coverage. What does that mean longer term? What's the impact on public health overall?
Yeah, so unfortunately, what we see people wait until their conditions get a lot worse before they go to the hospital. And so that means, one, that they are more likely to die or have more severe consequences from their illness. It also means that the hospital and taxpayers also end up taking on that cost if they go into the emergency room and are uninsured. We also see a lot of people who are skipping or delaying medications as well. And it's also important to note that we're also seeing a ramp up of these Medicaid cuts. And so we're going to see a lot more people who had Medicaid coverage also going uninsured. Next year, the Medicaid work requirements are going into effect for most states. And so we're going to see a lot more people who are currently going to have to either delay their care or go into the hospital uninsured as well. So it's just something we're, of course, closely watching as well. But it's something that is impacting millions of people right now.
Berkeley, before you go, I know you've also done a lot of investigating on those health share plans. Some people are turning to those thinking that is an alternative to health insurance. What's your word of warning or advice there?
Yeah, the main thing I would point out about these is that they don't have to follow current federal guidelines. So the Affordable Care Act, when it was introduced, it basically set these pre-existing condition protections. So people who had things like cancer or type 2 diabetes, any of these diseases, they couldn't be discriminated against if they sought out a health insurance plan. So I would say cautiously, if you do these plans, to make sure that they cover these protections.
Very important advice. Berkeley Lovelace Jr., we really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks.
And keep it right here. Coming up, the Television Academy releasing its nominees for the 2026 Emmy Awards. We're going to have a look at what shows walked away with the most nods and who got snubbed ahead of TV's biggest night. That is next, right here on Morning News Now. We are back with a warning for parents about a viral social media trend involving a popular children's toy. Doctors say kids are suffering major burns after heating up dough-like toys, which can cause them to explode. NBC's George Solis has the story and a warning. Some of these images may be distressing.
Chocolate? It's the squishy stress toy that surged in popularity, found on store shelves across America. They're marketed as harmless, sensory gadgets, but these goo-like toys are now at the center of a dangerous viral trend. Reports of videos online encouraging children to heat or microwave the gel-filled toys to make them more pliable. But once heated, medical professionals say the gel inside becomes a hot, glue-like substance. Something Katie Spence's 13-year-old daughter discovered after leaving her toy, called a NATO, in their hot car.
She squeezed it once and it popped on her. She was screaming, get it off me, get it off. And I didn't know what it was initially.
Spence says weeks later, her daughter is still recovering from her injuries.
It's like I couldn't even help her. I couldn't do anything I couldn't do anything to help her besides literally rush her to the hospital.
A similar story earlier this year for Caleb Shabala, whose mom says he had burns on his face, his eyes swelling shut, after she says he put his Nito in the microwave.
I didn't know it was a trend on TikTok before, because my friend did it before, but she put it in for, she didn't get hurt.
Shriners Children's Boston nurse practitioner Jill Pachuco says they've seen a dramatic spike in cases over the last 6 months, and that some of the injuries are serious.
What are some of these children needing after this gel-like substance gets on their skin?
Yeah, so some of these kids have required hospitalization for a day or two after the injury, depending on where the injuries have occurred.
Nito is one of the most popular brands of these sensory toys. Its maker, Boston-based Schilling Toys, warns cubes should not be left in cars or direct sun. In a statement to NBC News, the company says in part, "We are disappointed to see that there has been a trend on social media demonstrating misuse of our Nito products, and say they're working with social media companies like TikTok to take down content containing Nito product misuse."
Our thanks to George Solis for that report. And experts warn parents also need to be wary of knockoff products, those dupes that are made with different substances that are not safe for children. A really important warning, Savannah. Let's end the hour by introducing you to two sisters who are trying to bake the world a better place. It started as a passion for dishing out desserts to friends and family when they were kids.
Now they run a booming business from their food truck and storefront on Long Island. The pair told today's Dylan Dreyer that building it together has been the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I knew I'd have bakery one day and I knew it would be cool. But if you said your sister is your business partner, that's the part that would blow my mind.
Sisters Sammy Iserman and Sydney Ferraro are literally on a roll. They're the founders of the New York-based food truck and bakery For Goodness Cakes.
So I did grow up baking cakes for our friends and family, and then every year or every occasion, more and more outsiders, I feel like, would trust me to make their cakes. In 7th grade, I made somebody's wedding cake.
After college, Sydney went to culinary school and worked as a recipe developer, while Sammy started her career in fashion. But an impulse purchase set them both on a new path.
I remember her sending a picture in our group chat of her with the truck. I bought this. And I was like, that's insane.
Sydney found a 97 Chevy box truck on Craigslist for $7,000, dreaming of a bakery on wheels.
They were a lot cheaper than a storefront, and you didn't have to pay rent. If your location's bad, you could move it. I guess it was right after I purchased it, we were talking, and we both wanted to leave our jobs, so we were like, let's just do it together.
The project was no cakewalk.
It's we can get this fridge, but how do you screw the fridge into the wall? Because when you drive, things could fall over. If I'm in a bad mood, I could take it out on her and I know she's not gonna get mad.
I'm not gonna quit.
If you have a sister, you know how sisters act, and you could say whatever you want to each other and it's fine.
For Goodness Cakes hit the gas in 2019.
The first year we were open, we would sell 7 cookies a day, and we're rich.
From there, social media helped us so much.
Their secret ingredient, unique flavors and creative presentation.
I would say our classics are our rainbow cookies.
They're all 6 colors of the rainbow. You're never gonna find just 3 colors. Right now, banana is having a moment. How do we make this cooler than just selling banana bread? People like brownies, we combine them. What else would make it cool? Cheesecake. So we make a banana bread brownie cheesecake, and it's like a sandwich.
The desserts are also diet friendly.
So I follow a vegan diet. When we started our business, we were we want to have things, and it's not just some dry one-off option.
We really pride ourselves on our stuff is really good. You wouldn't know that it's vegan and gluten-free.
After years of serving goodies on the go,
Thank you.
Sammy and Sydney just celebrated the grand opening of their bake shop, a symbol of the sisters' sweet success.
I feel the sweetest part of this journey so far has definitely been the people. These people are so kind of nice that they'll come to us and they'll drive an hour out of their way to come to us. It's been so great. And of course, obviously working together has been kind of a given. Just working together has been so great.
Our thanks to Dylan for sharing that story. And if you are local to the New York City area, you can actually taste Sam and Sydney's treats Friday through Sundays out on Long Island.
Oh, I'm going to be stopping by.
Yeah, I know. You
amazing.
You're out there a lot.
I know. Love it.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us as the news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.